As single women over 50, we don't get many invitations to pause, reflect, and realign before the next year rushes in. In this episode of Jesus People Sisterhood, we're riffing on a powerful conversation from the Diary of a CEO episode featuring Chris Williamson, where he asks one sobering question. If you don't fix certain things now, is next year already lost? We take that idea and bring it home into real life, real faith, and real seasons of singleness after 50. This isn't about hustle, grinding, or making 2026 bigger and better. It's about gently looking back at 2025 and asking, what drained me? What did I tolerate that quietly shaped my life? Where was God nudging me? And did I listen? What do I want to carry forward? And what do I need to finally lay down? We talk honestly about regret, hope, faith, fatigue, and the freedom that comes from reflection without shame. If you felt like time is moving fast, or that you've been invited into a new chapter but aren't sure how to step into it, this conversation is for you. As 2026 begins, let's make sure we're entering it awake, grounded, and walking with God on purpose. Welcome to the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, a place where Christian single women aged 50 plus connect. I am your host, Janine Jordan, a Christian confidence coach and leadership mentor in Alberta, Canada.
And I'm your co-host, Ellie McCormick, a Christian longevity coach and mentor in the USA. Being single women over 50, we know what it's like to feel overlooked, to have unrealized dreams, to experience the challenges of singlehood, and to be concerned about what our future will look like. We couldn't find anything online for single Christian women over 50, so we created Jesus People Sisterhood just for you, a place where sisters encourage and empower one another through the last third of life, because you are a treasure trove of wisdom and of exceedingly great value. This is an authentic community, a supportive family, with other women on the same journey where Jesus is the center of it all. Here you will find real talk, real community, and real sisters.
Join us as we discuss building relationships, whole health, and growing spiritually. We'll review helpful books and articles, chat with guest speakers, share success stories, and have some laughs along the way. So grab your favorite beverage and we'll get started. Welcome, sisters, to this episode of the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, the only podcast specifically for single Christian women over 50. Today, we give a shout out to our sisters in Switzerland. Thank you for listening. It's a blessing to provide this podcast for free, but it does cost us to produce Jesus People Sisterhood episodes. It would be a great blessing to us that if you decide to buy a book mentioned in this podcast, you purchase it through the link in our episode show notes.
We want everyone to get to know our listeners, and so we'll be doing listener spotlight episodes from time to time. If you would like to share your testimony or what the Lord is doing in your life currently, or if you are leading in ministry or another field and would like to tell us about that for a Jesus Sister Excelling in the Last Third episode, please contact us at support@JesusPeopleSisterhood.com. We would love to have our listeners come and share with the sisterhood. And now let's get to today's episode. Today's conversation is a gentle pause, one we don't often give ourselves. We're reflecting on a powerful idea inspired by the Diary of a CEO conversation with Chris Williamson. The idea that if we don't look honestly at where we've been, we may carry the same patterns right into the next year without meaning to. This episode isn't about pressure or reinvention. It's about awareness, wisdom, and inviting God into our reflection as single women over 50. We're talking about what 2025 revealed, what may need to shift, and how we can step into 2026 with more peace, clarity, and intention. If you've been sensing that quiet nudge to slow down and take stock, this episode is for you. Hey, Janine.
Hello, Ellie.
How was your Christmas holiday?
I haven't had a Christmas like this in a long time. I've been ill since the moment pretty much that I left to go on my break from school. And so have had spent, I don't know how many days, from the 18th. Today's what, the 31st? Mostly just trying to recover from this horrible flu or cold or whatever it is. I felt like I've had every symptom under the sun. But yeah, finally feeling a little bit better, but you can probably hear it in my voice still. So not much. I didn't get up to see my family up in Edmonton and well, Sherwood Park actually, and didn't get to see my kiddos, and it was kind of sad. But I was so ill, and as a matter of fact, they were too. And I think a lot of people at this time of the year, well, at least here in Alberta, have been pretty ill with some kind of flu. So what about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm sorry that it seems like a lot of people are sick. There's something going around, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
My Christmas was good. I got to spend it with my grandbabies,
Mm.
so that was really nice.
Yeah.
That's my first Christmas with them, so that was
Mhm.
really good. But I'm ready to get ready for this coming year,
Yeah,
and brings us to what we're doing with this episode, which is that
yeah.
just being inundated with on social media about, end of year review and planning for next year and how to make 2026 great and blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
that we decided, hey, let's do an episode where we just go over all these different planning and reviewing and taking time to
Yeah.
really think about our life
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
where we're going, especially for older people, because you don't have
Mhm.
your whole life ahead of you as far as like lots and lots of years.
Great.
I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you'll live really long. Maybe you're 50 and you lived 110. I don't know.
Yeah.
But generally
Mhm.
speaking, and as Christians, we're supposed to number our days and take account and be good stewards.
That's true.
There was also, we've mentioned on this podcast before, we've listened to the Diary of a CEO podcast. And a couple days ago, Stephen Bartlett, who's the host, had a guest named Chris Williamson, who
Yep.
apparently, I didn't know, but he has a very popular podcast called Modern Wisdom.
Hmm.
These are like these two young British guys. They're very successful businessmen now, and they both live in the United States.
Right. It's my understanding.
So anyway, this guy, Chris Williamson, the whole episode was about reviewing 2025 and really reflecting
Hmm.
and asking yourself questions. And he does give like a review template, an annual review template
Yep.
that if you go to, I think it's Chris Will X review, if you just Google that, it'll take you to this his website, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They do, it's free, but they're going to make you put in your email. So
Yeah.
expect that you're going to get an email from them, but
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
just like unsubscribe, I guess. And then you'll get access to this free template that has these questions on it for you to reflect so that you can plan for 2026.
Hmm.
And I think both of us, I didn't listen to the whole thing, Janine did, was that it wasn't the regular, hey, how can I grind, grind, grind so I can be a business success or stuff. It
Right.
was really about emotions, about focusing on
Hmm.
what's really important in life.
Right.
And Janine, I don't know, I'm guessing you may have the same impression that I had, was you had these two young men who
Hmm.
don't know the Lord, but you could sense that they're at a place in their life where they are really maturing and they're reflecting and they're thinking about what really is important in life. Maybe because, in a sense, they've reached the top. They've accomplished so much. They're
Absolutely.
wealthy and they have to question, okay, now that I've got everything that I didn't even know I wanted,
Right.
well, what's it all about?
Right.
So
And I think that yeah, that's the relevance of why we sort of decided to use this material because ideally it would have been nice to maybe have some Christian content in there, but we're going to add some of that. But just the fact that we did find some things in here that were relevant and did actually speak to what we both believe, and it's yeah. So we hope that you'll enjoy the conversation that we're going to have about it, and I think that it will have relevance for our sisters as well if they take the time to reflect on it too.
Right.
Just because something isn't necessarily from a body of Christian work or Christian artists or authors, that doesn't mean that we can't learn from it, we can't glean from it, we can't enjoy it. Absolutely. Everything is the Lord's anyway, isn't it? So we
Yeah.
will just, I guess, wade through some of the things. Yeah.
So I think the point being for each of our sisters is that we want you to listen to some of the questions that are asked in this discussion
Hmm.
and ponder it yourself
Hmm.
because life can just slip away from us
Mm.
without us focusing on the important things. And I think even Chris Williamson says something about how we're focused on the urgent
Right.
and not the important.
Hmm.
And that's so true. That's what happens. And so we want to really encourage you because he brings up so many really good
Hmm.
insights, which surprising that it's from this relatively young man who doesn't know the Lord. Maybe he'll
Right.
come to know the Lord. At least I
Yeah.
don't think he does. I don't think he claims to be a Christian. That is just the realization of how life slips away from us. There's one thing he says, I think it's later on in the episode, where he says it's one thing where you're climbing up a ladder and you're grinding away, climbing up this ladder,
That's right.
driving towards something, and it's tall. And then you get to the top and you find out that the ladder was against the wrong wall.
Yeah. That sure hits home. Yeah.
And ladies, I don't know if some of you have felt that way. Just reflecting on your life, there's things that we keep going after that
Hmm.
maybe
Mm.
we really don't want. That if we
Right.
get there, we're not going to be happy with that. And
Hmm.
not that the goal of our lives are happiness, but
Hmm.
whatever God wanted us to do.
Yeah.
We can just be so confused, or we can be deceived,
Right.
or we
And
can just not take the time to even think about it and reflect to
mhm.
realize that we're heading in the wrong direction.
Right. That life's not a dress rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
That was the big thing. It's not. And I love that part too, which is skipping ahead a little bit, but how we plan and we keep saying, well, when we get here, or when we get to this milestone, or when we do this, or when, we've accomplished this, or something happens in our lives, we can start it, but actually you're in it. And I think we've discussed this before, but
Yeah.
every day is, you're in it. It's be in the now, right? That's something that they brought up. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're going to touch on a lot of the things that they talked about. We'll also probably go over some of the social media posts. There are a lot of things that they touch on are things that we've touched on too
Sure.
in previous episodes. We just mention it because it's the human condition and it's the
Absolutely.
thought
Yeah.
of responsibility as a Christian.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I agree with what you said. Yeah, it's in our humanness. We do have our boundaries within that. And you're right. And I think people, whether they're Christian or not, do come to a lot of the same conclusions about just living life and just the way that we're designed. So the name of the episode that we're discussing is If You Don't Fix This Now, 2026 is Already Over. Key lessons from the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett and Chris Williamson. So to start at the beginning, there's that perspective of time, legacy, and urgency that's kind of discussed at the beginning. And
oh,
I thought,
we
you
should give
know,
a disclaimer in that if anybody goes to listen to this episode, there is going to be some explicit language because, again,
oh yes,
yeah, they're
yes,
not
Ellie, that is true.
they're not
Yeah.
believers. So
Yeah.
just to give you a warning, it,
Yes, yeah, if that's something that you're kind of turned off about, yeah, you just and not that we're a fan of it either, but sometimes you have to wade through to see some of the good in that. And yeah, so back to that, one of the things that stated there is in 3 generations, no one will know your name. And then again, later on, I think Chris says, that may not necessarily be true for everyone because obviously we still have famous people that we know or things that we still talk about. But for the majority of people, it's a truth. You are here for a time, and so yeah, that's something to think about. You're so everybody is so busy leaving their legacy and leaving their, but really, the Lord is, if it's His will, that there will just be many to come after you, and many that were before you, and some of them thought that they would be, the end all, and but realistically, no, that's not the way it is. And the other thing that's brought up is this is the thing that we talked about and you thought was cool too. If your life were a movie, the audience would be screaming at you to act in a certain way. And I think we both related to that really well, that idea of the bird's eye view, sitting back and saying, if I could just step out of my whole existence here and just watch myself from afar, what would I be, what would I be saying?
No,
Stop. Whoa, 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 right? Yeah,
I think it was that started out with like three questions to ask as you were reviewing. It started out with reviewing 2025, your year.
true. Yep.
I can't remember what the other two questions were, but the one that really stuck out was that one. If your life were a movie,
Yeah.
what would the audience be screaming at you? Like, he's a loser, or why you need to leave that job, or somebody's hiding in the closet. And
Yep.
when I heard that, I just thought, yeah, because
Mm.
there's things that we keep doing in our life
Yeah.
that is clear to everybody else is like we should not be doing that.
It's
And
true.
that's in my encouragement to all our sisters is let's step back and look at
Hmm.
your life. There are things you were doing that you did in your life in
Yep.
2025, things that you were pursuing. It may have been before that too,
Hmm.
but we're just focusing on the last 12 months. If your life were a movie, what
Hmm.
would the audience be screaming to you? That's
Right.
obvious, or you need to stop doing, or you need to stop pursuing, or you
And I
need to
think,
start doing,
yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah. And I think if you even took a step back further, and I mean, I know you're looking at the last year and we're talking specifically about that, but maybe you could, and we've talked about this before, see patterns, right? See patterns in your life, right? Where,
Mm,
oh man, I'm still struggling with that same issue, right? And it's time. It's time to just kick that to the side and maybe deal with that. Maybe that's the thing. Which led to the next thing, what well, we talked about don't live a provisional life, waiting for conditions to be perfect. This is the real thing. This is your start. And back to the movie thing. Yeah. If you're looking at it in that way, it's not a movie though. It's real. And this is the time that you have. And problems are not, they talk about problems are not interruptions in life. Problems are a feature of life. They never disappear. So we're never going to be ready to, like, it's never going to be a problem-free time for you to lose weight. Go to the gym, have that awkward conversation, find a better job, right? Now is the time. And these problems that you have may be with you for some time, but even if they aren't and they're resolved, there will be more that come. There's never a perfect time. There's never your life is not a movie with reruns and re things, but that is a good thing to look at and realize that and every great movie even has conflict in it. It has things that need to be resolved, things that happen, problems that come against us. And right, we were even talking about how those problems hone us, how they shape us, and how they change our perspective. And they can be okay, but you're never going to have a day where you don't actually have a problem of some sort.
right.
So why wait
That's
for it,
not
right?
life. That is like
Not life,
that's yeah, some fantasy.
some fantasy.
And
Yeah.
of course, it's biblical too. We're always
Yes.
going to have trials and tribulation, and it's biblical that those
Yep.
trials and tribulation grow us. They
Mm-hmm.
make us better.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they do. Yeah. And more able to do the work the Lord has for us too. Just using those situations for his glory, for what he would have us go forward to do. So perspective, your legacy may not be, if you're living for your legacy or you're living for the urgency of today, it's never going to be a time to make the changes that you need or to have that time to reflect. Yeah. So the next part is why most people stay stuck. There's a little bit of talk about that. I didn't know that, or at least this is a quote, and I don't know where it came from, but only 9% of people keep their resolutions, and most of them are over by the end of January. Maybe you already knew that, but I thought
It
that
was
was,
like 23%. Well, they're
yeah,
talking about New Year's resolutions, and I think Stephen Bartlett said because Chris Williamson obviously he wants people to do this review
right.
and to purposely think about what they're going to do in
Yeah.
2026. And
Uh-huh.
then Stephen Bartlett was kind of like, yeah, but people make these New Year's resolutions,
Right.
and within the first week, I think 23% of people have already quit.
Right.
So it isn't most people. And that I think by the end of the year, only 9% of people have stuck with it Was that the right statistic? Like nine?
Yeah, it was by the end of, that's right. But by the end of January, another, what is it, 29% or something are like done too, right? So
Mhm.
it's a very small window where anybody actually continues with the new thing that they're trying to do. So,
Mhm.
and the
And
rest kind of drop off.
I think Chris's response was that one, I think Steve said something like, why bother, why New Year's Day do we start it? And he said, well, why not?
Yeah.
It could be any time. It's just some people feel good about starting on the first, which I think I read somewhere else too. It just helps us. Oh, I think it's in Atomic Habits that
Okay.
if you could say, okay, the next week on the beginning of the week or the first of the next month, whatever it is that you're going to start something and you state that is helpful for some people. But I think the other thing that Chris said was that I think in response to like people quitting, it was about like, well, what are the goals or the habits that you're putting into place?
Right.
And that was what the problem was. It wasn't that making goals just absolutely doesn't work, creating or planning. It's the way and the things that we plan. And then I think Stephen Bartlett gave the example of how one year he said his goal was to exercise every day and
Right.
that it was a really bad goal. And that's exactly what Chris said. Yeah, that was the worst goal because who can do that?
Right.
It's better to set up a goal like, I won't go more than 2 days without exercising or
Hmm.
going to the gym, whatever it was.
Right.
And so I think that was really good way of kind of like reframing that is that it isn't necessarily that people just can't keep whatever the habit is that they want to do or the
Right.
goal.
Hmm.
It's that they don't make them correctly, right? They really
Right.
need to rethink what are the
Hmm.
goals they're going to set up.
Right. And I think somewhere in there he says there is a scale of what you can actually do. And so when you setting this new goal, well, you might have to lose a little bit of the baggage on the other side because you can't just say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then that just adds to your to-do list, but you're going to have to find the time for that. And so the balance has got to be, well, what am I going to give up if I have to do this? And how am I going to shuffle things so that things work? And I think that he said somewhere in there that picking two things for the year is a good goal rather than trying to redo your whole life. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to get a new boyfriend. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to get a new car. I mean, all those sort of things that's a lot. It's a lot to
Right.
add to the things that we already have
Right.
to do, right? Yeah.
Right. Can't work on everything. And
Right.
and I think the other thing that he said was about how we think that our life can just expand to fit all this stuff in it that we
Exactly.
want to do. That just doesn't work that way. So that if you want to add something, you've got to let go of something,
Right. Yeah.
right? I'm not
Right.
gonna like,
Good. Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna spend more time with my friends and I'm gonna blah 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 blah. And it's like, but
Yeah.
then you're not taking anything away. Well, everybody only has 24 hours a day.
Right. Right. He says, use a subtraction, sorry, framework. Pick something to stop, pick something to start, pick something to switch. Don't add more responsibilities. You're already overloaded. And so put something down before you pick something up is exactly what we were talking about.
Mhm.
And it's true, right? It's because yeah, and then that just makes me more stressed. Right? If you think about all the
I
things you
know.
have to keep doing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, and I'm going to add this to my routine and this to my routine. It's yeah, that's pretty tough.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It was a little bit discouraging because I thought there's
Mm.
some things I'd like to not do, but I have to.
Hmm.
To
That's
make room for the stuff I want to do. So
right.
that was a little bit like, how's that going to work out, Lord?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then the other thing, okay, so now this is Chris again, I believe, and he says, you don't fail because you miss a day. You fail when you miss 2 days in a row. That's what James Clear says, apparently. So the idea is you got to get back up on the horse. So you have a bad day, or you have a bad moment, or you eat everything in town, right? Or you have a pizza party or something and eat 5 pizzas. Um, but you're going to have to the one day you can recover from, but the next day you're going to have to get back out there and try again. And he said I believe this was Chris, he said, or maybe this was Stephen, I'm not exactly sure, but one of them did say the idea is that you have to have your skill set build around getting back up on the horse because you are going to fall down. So make sure that you have those proper things in place. So you know you're going to, one of these days, you're not going to have your workout gear ready. You're not going to be wanting to get up and go. But if you have everything, if you have made plans that you are going to actually not meet your goal for that day, that you have some things in the way that you can implement when things are tough. So do plan for those days that you're not going to feel like doing anything. And
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
I mean, that's
Definitely
one of
relate.
the things we do in coaching is
Hmm.
we'll ask our clients, okay, what are the obstacles you see?
Yep.
Because we can't just go into doing things and think, oh, it's all just going to work out. There is going to be an obstacle. And especially as believers, we know we have an enemy who is
Hmm.
always trying to foil things for us. So it is
Yep.
important to realize, okay, what's going to keep me from accomplishing this? And
Right.
then the next question is, okay, and then when that happens, what are you going to do?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you,
exactly.
you miss a day or the thing that could throw a wrench in the works happens. How are you going to get back up on that horse and do it again? How are you
Yeah.
going to work around that? It's
And to
really
know your vulnerabilities, right? To know
right,
when you're
right.
vulnerable. I
To
mean,
think
that's
about it
when,
beforehand and
right.
instead of being like all surprised that this happened. Because
Woo!
then, and I think
Imagine
that's
that.
what they were saying was that
Mm.
Chris and Stephen was
Hmm.
that, okay, then you have, once you have a plan of when you fail, then you just do that. And then
Right.
you keep moving. It's when it really throws you for a loop is when you do not have a plan for when you fail. Like you just assume you're never going to fail.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's an unrealistic expectation, obviously. And again, like the enemy does, he knows us. He knows our vulnerabilities. He knows that I would rather perhaps do something entirely different than go downstairs and go to the gym, right? It's yeah, it's right there. So then that can happen in any situation.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they talked about was procrastination. It's what's really going on. He talks about where does your procrastination come from? And it's that avoidance of discomfort, right? You may really want to do this thing, but it takes a lot to do it. It can be so painful to have to face some of the things that you've been procrastinating about for a long time. And you can pretty much, he said, what, you can clean your whole cupboards, you can clean your house, you'll do anything, but this one thing that you need to do. And, that came to, I think, when he was talking about writing, when he was talking about getting things ready for using the media. So, and I think we've all been there. Procrastination is a really difficult thing. And
Yeah. That was like reading my mail. Definitely.
yeah,
That's like
yeah,
I just think of like it's not
yeah,
that we think, okay, well, I'm just being lazy or they're just being lazy, but
yeah,
they're doing all kinds of other stuff,
exactly.
right? They're just
Yeah.
not doing this thing that whatever reason it's making them uncomfortable to do.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
their suggestion wasn't it there's no, again, I didn't take notes on this. So I think the suggestion was pretty much like James Clear says in Atomic Habits is that okay, just do it for 2 minutes. Just do it for 5 minutes. And I think Chris was like, I think his was maybe writing. It was that you just, okay, I'm just going to write for 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Whatever's there is there. And then, but if I make it a habit, instead of saying I've got to get this whole thing written, I'm just going to sit there for 5 minutes to write or whatever it is that he's been procrastinating against.
Hmm.
And then I'm just going to do that every day. Eventually, you just start writing. It's like a way of easing you into that thing that you've been procrastinating about.
Exactly. And I think he even talked about really micro small steps, then I'm gonna clean my bedroom, and the first day I'll put the vacuum in there, and then the next day I will open up the curtains and clean the drapes or something, or do the bedding, and then the next day. And I think he also talked about, a lot of things that hold us back is we don't know what to do. We don't know where to start. And we don't know how to do the thing that we can think about it. We know what needs to be done, but we don't know how to go about doing it. And he talked about how, you can use Chat GPT, you can ask a friend, you can, pick up the phone and call a neighbor and all those sort of things. And so where there's a will, there's a way kind of thing to chunk it out and to find the information that you need. And once you get started, once you can just get that little bit, just like you said, once you can get your foot in the door of a little piece of it, it comes together. And then eventually you start to see the whole picture come into view. Sometimes journeys can be embarrassingly slow, but you have to keep making progress. So, yeah, that was interesting. And we know that as coaches as well, because your people progress at different rates. And the things that were really, really the most difficult, like losing that 20 pounds or getting a new job or something, once you start doing the little pieces, then it's easier for things to come together. So, yeah. Now you mentioned something to me before. Let's talk about daily structure that actually helps. And this is where Chris talks about, and I agree with him 100%. My phone, and I think we talked about this before, right, Ellie, where you said, thought you were addicted to your phone, right?
Hmm.
And I think you are not alone. I think it is a widespread phenomenon, right? It's probably not even a
Right.
phenomenon anymore, but that is one thing that just robs us of so much time, right? And his suggestion, so this is daily structure that actually helps you in pursuing your goals and doing the things that you need to do. And he talked about phone charging your phone outside the bedroom, not actually having it be your friend in the morning and in the evening, the last thing you sort of, see and do. We've talked about that, the dopamine hits, we've talked about all those kind of things, right? So, and he said, put your phone charger just outside your room and just leave it there and get used to just being without it, because it's become such an appendage, right, to us. So
Right. And then distraction it becomes once you pick it up. And
absolutely.
so he was suggesting we've had radio alarm clocks or whatever for
Yeah. Yeah.
decades,
Yeah.
and that's what you should use. Don't use your phone to wake you up. So
Yeah.
I may try that. He said even if you charge your phone in the same room, just away from you, that it's not what's waking you up, so that you don't pick up your phone first thing in the morning,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not right next to you, so it's you're looking at it at night either.
Right. Right.
And I
Yeah.
think the other thing that they were talking about at that time is they were asking each other as they were reviewing the 2025. I think it didn't even necessarily have to be 2025. I think it was like any time in your life or in the last 10 years. I don't remember.
Okay.
But it was like, what habit or choice that you made gave you the biggest return on investment,
Right.
that had the
Yep.
biggest effect on your life? And that's when Chris said it's when
Hmm.
he started charging his phone outside of his room, outside of his bed,
Wow.
so that he didn't look at it.
Right. You're absolutely right. And that is such a wonderful suggestion, right? And I think that if everybody did that, it would make a phenomenal amount of improvement in their lives. Well, we just know. We know that there's so many statistics now about driving. People are actually on their phones driving, and people are walking and on their phones, and people are doing everything on their phones. And it's time. And I think that that would make a difference for not just you and I, but for everybody. Yeah.
I think the other important part of that was that they asked people to write what biggest change they made in their life
Yep.
that gave them the biggest ROI.
Right.
I didn't read all the comments, but I did see a couple. I think one person put that they stopped eating sugar
Oh,
like
okay.
10
Yep.
years ago, and that had the biggest change in their life, on their health. And there was another one. What was the other one? I think I read two, but there's probably a lot more that
Mm,
people put in the comments because Stephen asked them to. So you
right.
could probably find other things. There might be somebody who said something about going to the gym or lifting weights or something.
Right.
So for each of us, it doesn't necessarily have to be
The same thing.
the same thing, although we could look at those and say, okay, this year, this person says this is something that was life changing that they got the most benefit from. Maybe I should try that.
Right.
I
And
think
just having a pool, right? Having a pool to choose from if you in
right,
case
right.
you
And for each of us to think about what change did we make in the last 10 years that we had the biggest return on investment, that was the mo
Mhm.
had the most positive benefits on our life because we made that decision to change that thing, whether it was to stop doing something or to start doing something or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. He does go on to give a couple of other things. Delay caffeine for 90 minutes after waking, walk 20 minutes outside daily, get some sunshine in your eyeballs, that sort of thing. No alcohol for 6 months. I don't think that either you or I have any kind of hold there, but many people do. And obviously not people that just have challenges with being alcohol dependent, but just people that are drinking. And he talked about the time that it takes away from other things that you could be doing and the ramifications of, maybe drinking a little bit too much and how that kind of spills over. And even though maybe it's not something you do all the time, it would be like smoking, right? I mean, there's the ramifications of, the smoking, the money, the time, those sort of things. Then he also says, to achieve one meaningful thing a day per day. Yeah, that seems like a lot easier sometimes than even having one big overall arching goal, right? So I think that was a good thing. The other thing that I picked up on was using an accountability partner. And I still like this idea. I know that can be tough to find somebody that is willing to walk that walk with you, but if you can, I think that's a wonderful thing.
It's
And
very effective. Very
exactly.
effective. What happens, though, is a lot of people don't really want one.
I think that's true. Yeah.
And then the other issue is like, I think back years and years ago,
Oh,
there was
okay.
somebody
Yeah.
who I knew that wanted to lose weight, and there was another person in their life that was trying to help them, and they ended up resenting that person, hiding food and stuff,
Oh,
and then they had a bad relationship after that. And this is going like back like 30 years or more that I knew
oh,
about these people. And so ever since then, I've always been like, hands off. Even if somebody wants you to hold them accountable, I'm always like, okay, are you sure? You gotta really make sure because I never wanted to be hated because you asked me
mhm.
to help you be accountable. So on both ends of those is that you need to go in with the right attitude and to realize the possible obstacles again and
Mhm.
ramifications of being accountability partner with somebody and asking for accountability. You need to then be accountable to somebody and not resent them and be angry at them because they're doing what you asked them to do.
True. Yeah, and picking that accountability partner is, I think, a very difficult choice and is something that you need to take some time and to really, like you said, understand the ramifications of that. And you certainly don't want to be the person on the other side saying, "Well, you asked me to, and
Yeah, now
and
you
now
hate me. Now
now
you
things
hate
are
me
not
because
going well." Yeah, it's a heart thing and it's a humbling thing. It's a humbling thing to come under the authority of somebody else and ask for help. It's a difficult thing for sure. So,
for the sake of time, we're pausing the conversation here. We'll pick up the discussion next week in part 2 of Reviewing 2025 to Make 2026 Great.
thanks for listening to today's episode. Please share any thoughts that resonated with you from today's podcast episode in our private Facebook group at Jesus People Sisterhood Community. Start reaching out to other single women and create your local group of Jesus People Sisters. Please let us know about your group to add to our directory by contacting us at support@JesusPeopleSisterhood.com.
Have you had a good experience with a business? They've treated you honestly and helped you at a reasonable price? Please let us know. We would like to start a directory of JPS-friendly businesses. Let's care for one another.
Be blessed by Him who is able to protect you from stumbling and to make you stand in the presence of His glory, blameless and with great joy. Until next time.
Hey, sister, before you go, thank you for listening. If you found value in today's podcast, the best way to say thank you is by leaving a 5-star written review at Apple Podcasts. That raises us in the rankings and helps other sisters find us too. And please tell a friend or post it on your social media. If you're a single Christian woman over 50, this podcast was created specifically for you. The Jesus People Sisterhood is your community to find support and friendship with other sisters who can understand. Be sure to follow us on your podcast app and join our free private Facebook group at Jesus People Sisterhood Community.
Jesus People Sisterhood has also started a private Facebook group for housing and co-living opportunities. You can check that out at Jesus People Sisterhood Senior Housing. You can also find us on Facebook at Jesus People Sisterhood and individually for Janine at riseupcoachingandconsulting.com and for Ellie at samaramountain.com. And ladies, this is the necessary disclaimer. Our podcast content is for informational purposes and does not constitute professional advice from mental health, medical, legal, financial, or other areas. The opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host. It is our heart that this podcast will be a blessing to you. Together, let's build a powerful sisterhood with Jesus. Make a friend, add a sister, across the border and around the world.